So let me leave you this one. Give you this one more analogy. I love planting things in my garden. Okay. If you follow my Facebook, you see I'm planting things. I just planted an avocado. I'm really excited about it. Right. If you take a plant and you plant a plant from seed in a greenhouse, right, protected from the elements, no heat, no wind, that plant will grow. Okay. It'll grow nice. The second you expose it to elements, it's probably going to die. But if I take that same plant and I plant it outside, exposed to the elements, and it withstands hurricane winds and the heat and the cold, that thing is growing deeper roots and it's going to become a stronger plant. It's going to be a healthier plant. It's the same thing with our thinking. If I live in a very protected bubble, this is why you see this all the time. People who grew up in very restrictive households, maybe a particular faith, they're not exposed to different ways of thinking, and they go off to college and they go buck ass wild because they've never had to deal with adversity. They've never had to deal with other ways of thinking. And then all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, what is this? So anyway, all that to say, I think being challenged is not a bad thing at all.
I think this is one of the most important concepts in our society today, and things that we need to talk about. As a group, as a collective, as individuals thinking through our own lives. And I wrote a bunch of things down that you said, and I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. One clarifying question for you before I move into just a few other thoughts that I had. What is bad conflict? Because you said, we need to have conflict in our life. And then you did wouldn't be a preface because you said it afterwards, but you said, but not bad conflict. What constitutes, how do you delineate between good conflict and bad conflict?
Yeah. Okay. So this is not thought out at all. So
that's okay.
But I would say bad conflict is where, let's say you and I, and let's just kind of keep it in the context of you and I are arguing about some position of faith or some position of politics, right? Because those are the two things that are the worst, right? I would say if we're entering the conversation and not in good faith, then I would say it's bad conflict. And that's what you see online, right? You see people engaging in conversation or argument or engaging in arguments, and it's not in good faith.
So for those who may not know that term, what do you mean in good faith?
In good faith means like, Ryan, I disagree with you, and I think you're an idiot and a fool. Yeah. That's in bad faith. Like, Ryan, I disagree with you. I want to learn more about why I disagree with you, but I recognize you as a human being who's smart and intelligent, and I want to understand what you believe and why you believe it. I'm entering that argument or that discussion in good faith.
Another good example of this would be like where, say, Nikki Haley says, that she's for the war in Ukraine, and you don't realize that her entire family, her entire family owns a military consulting company, and it is in her personal best interest financially to have the war in Ukraine because then she gets paid, and so do all her family members to go over and consult. So
we would call that conflicted. Okay.
Yep.
So that's a conflict of interest.
Yes.
So I would call that, I don't know if that's necessarily in bad faith, but I would call that Nikki Haley, if that's, I don't know. I'm assuming that's true if you're saying it, but I would say that
shill for the military industrial complex.
Yeah, we call that that's a conflict of interest. Trump has lots of conflicts of interest.
You think? What do you think those are?
I mean,
and again, I'm not advocating for. I've gotten some shit recently because people think I advocate for Trump. I'm not advocating for Trump. I'll be honest with you. The most fascinating thing for me about Trump is the psychology of Trump derangement syndrome. I'm just fascinated by it. I don't think he's the best candidate for our country as a whole. I wish we had better options. I think he's better than Biden by far. I mean, you're literally voting for people. You're literally voting for the dark side of politics if you vote for Biden because he's a fucking corpse. But my point is, I actually don't even love Trump. If I thought he had a shot, and I will probably vote for him in New York because the freaking libs down in New York are going to vote for Biden no matter what, I probably would vote for I love RFK. I don't agree with everything RFK does, but you know what I love about RFK, and I'll move on to my ideas around Trump derangement syndrome, is here's what I know. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. loves this country. He does. You don't have to agree with that. I think some of his thoughts on crypto. Some of his thoughts on some other topics are a little off the wall.